So here we are, ready to go with the Mum Challenge. Now, why is it called the Mum Challenge, you might ask? Well, because we're going to add just one little extra technique to what we've already done. There have been so many gorgeous spider mums this month. It's just been a pleasure to see, beyond a pleasure. It's been awesome to see. And we made them all with continuous loops, and just knowing kind of what would be the right number and size at any given time to make a certain shape. And you can mess with that, add more, add less, make it sparser. That's what's cool about something that's that sort of straightforward. You know, it takes a while to figure out what exact ratio you might be looking for, like it did for me, but the techniques itself, not so bad. Themselves. So now we're going to add one extra technique, because what the Mum Challenge here is now, notice I took out the word spider, because this Mum Challenge, we're going to do a wide petal mum, what I call a wide petal mum, which I think in the more classic books, they might call them a football mum, or even like gardening. I have a gardening book that calls it a football mum, and it's like one from the 70s. I don't know. To me, I don't really see the shape of the football. And if it is supposed to be shaped like a football, then I am definitely doing it wrong. But mine's more like a baseball. But anyhow, more on that later. The baseball shape, that is. So we're going to add one technique, the double crossover loop. I don't know if that's considered a beginner or intermediate technique. It's a simple one to explain. It's not always that simple to get it pretty, but we'll work on that together. But even so, it always looks kind of cool one way or the other. Now, so what we're looking for, and I actually went through, and because I showed you guys this, like a bunch of these ones that are like on matte transparents. This one got really mangled. I think I dropped it straight on its head. It looks like it got mashed, and I have to go and tend to it, the poor thing. Yeah, oh well. Anyhow, so this was that was what I was going for, a very full mum. And this was probably the second to last iteration. I have probably done this particular, the wide petal mum, even more than the spider mum. I have probably done this about 6 or 7 different iterations before I finally got to the round dome shape I want. Now, not everyone wants that. So I actually made a couple of other prototypes, a flatter one, which maybe does look kind of football-like. I don't know. Let's just not ponder the football thing too deeply. And just a smaller version altogether. So let me show you what I mean. Now, there's this guy who's our friend, but he needs a little TLC. Let's be honest. I don't know why it's a he, but there it is. This is what I'm talking about. So this is the prototype that I made to make sure that my lovely pattern here, which we'll talk about in a second, which is not that lovely, I'll be honest. The pattern itself, or design, let's call it a design. My notes, it's a little bit messy, but what I wanted here, and you can see how smooth this looks here, and it's a five color grouping, again, is I wanted this really round, and I didn't actually do any kind of special, like, pulling these out, which I do sometimes with these, which I can, well, this one looks so mangled. I do sometimes, have ones go further out and pull down, so they look like that. I didn't want to do that, shape this one yet. There's no calyx on this yet. I haven't done anything yet. You can use the same style for calyx as you can with the spider mums, and the same leaves. Because I wanted you to see how it actually looks just natural, just kind of just kind of turned up, bent up, sloped up naturally, that you can really see this smooth dome, right? This smooth dome, and it's thick, right? And so you have this really nice smooth dome. And then, so you're getting this is a heavy flower. This is a substantial flower. And it's kind of cool, because it really just, the number and size of the units I'm going to show you should give you this natural sort of shape. And then if you want to make it, do other things, that's fine. But it does already come in this really nice smooth dome. And that took probably, I don't know, like I said, 6 or 7 tries to get that smoothness and still have this sort of thickness to it. So that's one we're going to do. That's the one we'll do together. And I'm going to have the design notes for all of them. And I did it in this weird brown, because I love this brown. And then fading in, this is another one of my favorite colors. And I was like, I don't know, maybe I should paint it to liven it up, put a little just a little, like a little wash over it just to bring it out. My husband was like, no, it looks pretty cool. Because I was actually trying to go for, to be, believe it or not, like old paper with this. Like old sort of browning paper. I wanted it to look like paper. And I think that for whatever reason, because of why would you have a paper chrysanthemum? But again, it's kind of like bringing those botanical illustrations to life, like to 3D form. And so that was my inspiration on this color. I know it's a weird one. It was supposed to be the prototype. We're not going to do this color for the one we make together, but I still like it. But it does make it hard to see the 5 different units, because basically there's one bigger one out here, and then I did a kind of a mixed one here, and then one here, and then another mixed one, and then on the inside. So we're going to make one together, and I will make it very clear what the actual units are. So that would be one size. That's going to be the biggest one. And again, I had to bend it so I could show it to you, but there it is. And hopefully you can see how nice and rounded it gets from that proportion. Now the next one, I realized I had this one sitting around that I have had since the dawn of time. I can even tell, because look at that calyx, it's flat as a disc, like I told you guys. These leaves are all wonky. This is kind of almost the same. It starts with the same colors as the chill one that I made on the video for the spider mums, except then it ends up doing different things in here. Anyhow, I love this one. I've just kept it around. This thing is probably since about 2 months into me making my first ever French beaded flower. And I don't know, I made other ones at this time and they're long gone of different colors. I just keep this one around. But then I noticed, I was like, look at how this has evolved, right? Like this is my big kind of puffy one. It's very dense. It's very spherical. This one, maybe that's where the football comes from, because it's more oblong going to a point. Maybe, I don't know, I'll have to look it up. So anyhow, this is an older one. So I decided, I was like, well, you know what, I didn't even write down, I think I did write down what I did to make this, but to be honest, I don't understand it. Don't even ask. So I was like, I'm just going to go through and count it and deconstruct it and make a new one. So I did. So we're going to have one that's flatter like this. So then I made the prototype for that. And that one, I feel like I'm doing more explaining. I was like, this is going to be a fast video. Okay, that one ended up looking like this. So you can see the difference between the two, right? And this one's pretty cool too. I didn't do much shaping, like weird shaping. I just did straight up, curved up straight. So you could see the difference in what the petals, based on the counts I'm going to give you, would naturally give you. So they're both really quite charming. I like them both equally, to be honest. But this one's a more disc, and this is definitely more spherical, right? We can see that. And so this one's very pretty. It's another 5 color one. This one's easier to see the colors, at least, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there. Looking good. And so I did this one in golds and creams. One of my favorite color combos. Not this particular one. I do them different, but just color golds and creams together in general. But there's so many out there that you can do different particular golds and creams all the time. Now, anyhow, so that's the other one. And you can see the difference. You know, it's a little puffier there. Last but not least, in case you just want to get started, because these are you're gonna have to wire up some beads to make this. You know, it's gonna be substantial. Even these are less, but you're still doing a bit. This is definitely probably a faster one, but this is just fun. I just love anyway, you get the drift. So then I made just a straight up smaller version. It's a smaller version of probably this one, right? Because it's a little bit small, a little bit disc shaped. So it looks like this. This one got a little bit smushed too. So ends up looking like this. And so this is an easy, quicker one too, to do a smaller version of it. You can still do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 color choices. I think I did 5. Oh, I did. And this will give you a smaller one, and this one got a little bit mushed out. We got to pull these out a little bit. There we go. So we can see that dome to it. So that's our different sizes there. Let me straighten these out. So those are the 3 that I'm going to put out a PDF for so that you can see them and make them and choose. But we're not going to make both or all 3 because you don't need to, because the techniques are the same for all of them. So I'm going to make the bigger one because that one is more challenging. So I want to show you that one just because getting it assembled can, you know, that's a lot of beads to wrap around there. But the only thing we're adding now, and you can see the difference in these, I hope. Let me hold it this way. The only difference now that we're seeing, the only new thing, is this double crossover loop right here. Now, let me show you. Well, let's look at the one in gold here. That might be easiest to see on the camera. So these are what we're going to be doing. We make our wide petals out of double crossover loops. Now, I'm sure if you want to see an extended video on those, there's one out there. I'm going to show you how I make mine. And you can, if you have your own way to make them, then you do your thing. If you like it, go ahead. I'm just going to have some tips because I like these to get, for this particular kind, very flat. I like them to be very flat. I want them to look like that flat petal. Now, there's different mums where they have the crossover loop and it's very 3D, and that's cool too. I like that. It's just not what I'm going for here. What I want is like that flat. I want it to look like that flat mum petal, right? And then we can shape these. And that's the cool thing about these is once they're done, like I said, I was keeping them kind of all nice and, you know, upright and stuff for you guys so that you could see what the shape really gives you, that these, you know, these sizes and these loops will actually give you. You can shape them. You can pull them down and make them more random. You know, have fun with that as normal. Like I always say, have fun with it, you know. Make it do what you think it should do. You know, shape them. Have them kind of pull this out and have one dip down like the, you know, old Japanese watercolors and things, you know. Botanical prints where everything's not perfect. And so they're just kind of doing their thing, you know. And so you can get one like that and pull it all around and make it look super pretty. And this one I did all in golds with like a yellow ochre on the inside, which I think is kind of cool. I don't know what all these beads are that I'm using. Some of them are unlabeled and I've had them forever. If you do have any interest, let me know. I can see which ones I have labels on. Might be one, or that I can figure out at least. So anyhow, I like this one with the gold, like the sort of orangey gold going into the sort of yellow ochre in the middle. But anyhow, so that's what we've got so far. So we have these three. So let's talk about that. And again, I'm going to give you all the bead counts for all three of them, but we're going to make the big one just so that we can, if we got any issues coming up because of the size of it, we can address those together. Because if you can make the big one, you can make the small ones, that's for sure. Smaller ones. Now, so this is the guy we're going for, and we're looking for, again, that nice, just really roundness to it, right? We'll call it a baseball mum. I think that's more fitting on that one. So this is what I've got, right? So this thing, yeah, that's what I got. That's my notebook on it. I will make it better for you guys. That's all I can say. Because here's the deal. Here's what I did. These are actually, they're ordered in the number of making and also could be different colors. So this is unit 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I, for some reason, did them out of order like this, which is interesting. So I think I added a unit after the fact, which is interesting. So we're going to do them. They can have 5 colors. You can break them up however you want to, though. I'll show you when I type out the PDF how I broke them up and when we're making them. But if you want to say do like, you know, instead of doing these 2 segments together, you could do 3 segments and one of that. You can break them up however you want to. And again, you can make them in 1 color if you want to. Sure, make them in 1 color. These things are pretty darn cool. Or make them in 2 colors, you know. So they're going to look pretty no matter what you do. I think so. I'm a tad biased. And not because I made the thing. I just think they're cool. I guess that is because I made it though, huh? But it really, I don't feel like it's that. I feel like it's just I was lucky to find this particular, after many tries, I was lucky to find this, what I think gave it a really nice dome shape. And I'm just happy with it. So, let's get started. Again, I'm going to put down at least all the counts for things. But first, let's talk about the first section we're going to do. This one's much messier than the other one. I should have typed it out first for you guys. I could have held it there. We're going to do what I used to call the extra XXL and XL sections. Now, you're going to need a lot of beads for that. I'm going to be honest. Now, the thing with this, normally I like to do all my colors in one unit, like continuous unit, even if the loops are different sizes. But this one, this XL, XXL, and XL are so, there's so many beads to it that if you did them together, it would be something like 256 inches of beads, right? Which is a lot of beads. So that's like something over 20 feet, right? So instead, what we're going to do, and it also makes it so that the wrap is harder to get tight. Though all of the ones I've done so far, I've done in one unit, and I kind of wish I hadn't. Because the longer it is, again, it's harder to tie it off and to keep them really tight because you're trying to avoid all the wiggle and jiggle, right? So, I mean, if you get some, you get some. So what? So anyhow, so what I'm going to do is actually do these two separately. Now, I know you can't really read this, and trust me, I'm going to type it out. But for once, I'm going to do, even though I consider this as one unit, because it's one color, I'm actually going to do it in two sections. So I'm going to start with the XXL section, which is 4 1/4. So the way I do, I think they're called double crossover. I'm pretty sure they are. I wrote it here, and I did learn my techniques from the Arlene Baker book, which has awesome diagrams, which I always say I know. But the problem with that is I look at the diagram, and then I don't really look at anything else. So I'm going to show you how I do them. It gets the job done. I've made a lot of these mums, and they're still holding true. I mean, the ones I just showed you, the green ones, literally, that's one thing is like I've dropped it on its head, and it's, it holds together. I know that's probably going to give some of you anxiety, but I'm just trying to show you, like, these things are solid, and all I got to do is just a little bit of bending with them. And that's because of the way they're put together. Now, anyhow, back to the matter at hand. I don't know why I just felt the need to just drop that thing down to prove a point. But we're going to start again. I'm trying to find the end of it. So there's a lot on here. So the first thing I'm going to do is the XL. So this 4 1/4. Oh yeah, that was my point. See, I was trying to do two things at once in my brain. I should know better than that. So the way I'm going to show you the way I do double crossover loops. So when I say 4 1/4, which I want to demonstrate to you, and I was so good at pre-wiring my beads, but I seem to have lost the end. Hold on a second. So I did my first, it's like half of the unit, basically, right? So, because I'm going to do both of these, the XXL and the XL in, oh, you probably can't see that, in the pink, in the outer color. Oh, let me show you the colors we're going to use. And I'm going to show you what I mean. So there's going to be 16 of 4 1/4. Now, how we do that, I'll show you in a second after we talk about the beads. So I wanted to pick ones that I could put together with the ones I'd already made if I wanted to, and maybe that would show up better, and that I haven't used a lot before. So I actually really like pink, but for some reason I always really go for these like antique, like mauve, dusty pinks. And I was like, I just want to do a true pink one, right? So and then I always defer to like peachy pink, which I almost did here too, or something else. I don't know why I'm scared of pink. I don't know why. I love the pink, and I love seeing other people's flowers in pink. So we're doing one in pink. And it's very inspired by the fact that I just got a cool bulk order from my local bead shop, and I got a box of these, which are white, inside painted white with like a rosaline glass on them. So everything I'm doing is inside color line this time. So I want it to be shiny because I have those transparent ones over there, transparent matte ones. So that's going to be our first color down. And then I have this one. This is, apparently I got it from someone on Etsy, and it's 1930. I'm never going to find this one again. So there's that one, which is kind of a semi-matte, and so I'm not thrilled with comboing it, but there you go. Then I got this one from another local bead shop. And then I got this one for that same local bead shop. Now, that would be my 4. And then the middle is just that center thing again. So I'm almost tempted to just have this, which you totally can do. You can do anything you want to do. But I'm going to have this maybe bleed into the center and just have it be the whole thing from, the last, be the last unit also. But I did string some of these just to see. So this, I'm not 100% convinced on that. So we'll see as we go. But these for sure. I wanted a very graded up. There's apparently a green bead mixed in there. I wanted to have a very graded up, sort of going up fast pink situation. And I really love this pink because it's barely pink. Oh no, That's because I'm scared of the beads. Dang it. Anyhow. It's cool though, isn't it? I did not know. I just found this kind of randomly. To be honest, I just kind of poked at it in her catalog, and I was like, well, that's cool. I didn't realize it was white with, I thought it was actually pink on the inside, but it's actually white with a rosaline glass, which is really cool, which is why it's so pale. So we're going straight up pink. I'm not going to shy away from it anymore. I'm going to conquer my fear of pink. I don't really think I have a fear of pink, because that would be weird, wouldn't it? So, I guess so. So, that's where we're going. And we'll see how it plays out. I gotta be honest, I haven't done those color combos, like I said. So now here's what we do. Here's how I do. And honestly, if you have your own way, even if you don't have your own way, I highly encourage you to look at, one of the videos on the group site about doing double crossover loops, or in the Arlene Baker thing, and actually read it, because I'm going to show you what works for me. Now, my point was, when I did toss that one on its head a second ago, was whatever I do, it holds up, so I'm okay with it. I tend to over twist though, out of, again, that's not always a good thing, but you'll learn when it's a bad thing, that's for sure. Now, let me clear this off. Oh my gosh, this poor thing is getting worked over. Now, so the first unit is going to be 16 double crossover loops, and I record them as what the outer crossover loop would be, which may be how everyone does it. I don't know. It seems to make sense, to me at least, so maybe it makes sense all around. So, wow, this one looks almost white now, but I'm into that. So I'm going to do 4 1/4 beads, right? And then I'm going to do a regular loop. And again, if you have other ways that you do your double crossover loops, you do your thing. Just, you can take my, bead counts and go on your day. Now, again, this is going to be the long side. Well, actually, we're only doing one size, because I am separating this one particular unit, because there's just too much. So by the way, if I'm doing 16 4 1/4, that's about 136 inches of beads, right? Because you have to, double the outside loop and then multiply by 16. So we got about 136. So that is then what, 25 plus 9, so 34 4-inch bead scoops is how I think of it. Or you can have your own measurement ways. So here's the trick. So I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to keep it, tight, right? Pinching both sides here, keeping them tight for my first loop. And I'm going to bring my right hand side, because I'm right-handed. You might want to do it underneath the other side, just like I would do my initial continuous loop. Same thing, but instead of doing a 3 or even a 4 twist, I'm just going to do, and I'm going to do real tight. I want it to be real shallow twists. 1, 2, like they're almost twisted on top of each other. But I want it to be a real twist, otherwise they will slip and make it hard to do. Now, if I'm doing this by beat, see, I made it slip, because I was trying to talk and get fancy, in which case then do another twist. And make sure it really rope twists and not just one twisting around the other one. See, now we're not slipping. There we go. So I'm telling you, if it doesn't do what you want to do the first time, make it do it. So with double crossover loops, I always tell you guys, I've said before, that if I was doing a continuous loop, I like to have that one bead up top, so that I'm seeing, I want the opposite here. I want bare wire. I want 2 beads equal distance from each other, no top bead. So right here would be good, because right now, I realize this is not the best color to pick, actually, because we're against a light background. Let me figure out if I have something a little bit darker we can do it against here. Oh, I just got this cool book in the mail with a beaded object. That seems to have, well, that's going to be too busy. Okay. I'm going to pause for a minute while I find something dark to put this behind. I wonder if this will help. All I know is I am not beading another 6 inches of beads, so we're sticking to this color. But hopefully you can see it better now against this background. Okay, good old folders. So again, at the top here, I want to have an actual split. I want that, again, don't be scared of the red. That's red alcohol ink, of course. So I'm going to pinch this top, You could even bite it if you were so inclined. And so I want this to actually have I want there to be bare wire on top, because I'm going to come back up and do the crossover loop of it, right? So I keep them about this far apart. And again, you'll kind of learn what works for you. So when I'm going to bring it up, now here's where it gets a little bit tricky. I'm going to fold this in, and I'm going to use my thumbnail to kind of guide that wire again, because you know who's the boss. I'm just whispering it. Okay. We are the boss. Now, so I'm going to force that wire to go right up in the middle here. Right up in the middle. And I want to keep this kind of tight, because I do want these to be pretty tight. I like, again, you can see on these that there's really no like gap between them. They're very flat, you know, and they look like that kind of petal. So as everything around is falling down. So then I'm going to take this one coming in here, and I'm going to just get it just right enough in the bottom here. Then I'm going to do a little shake. Now I spend a lot of time with our crossover loops because I want them, each of them, to, you don't have to do that. I want them to be really flat and have that shape. So I'm going to push this down in here. I'm going to get this, and I even come back and take my thumbnail, and this is the weird thing I do, and I kind of push that middle thing through, kind of push that middle bead through, and I actually kind of pinch the outer ones up to kind of make it like really, and then flatten it back again to make sure that thing is really in there. Like it's flat with it. It's flat because I molded the wire into that shape. Now I'm going to bring it up, and you want to now kind of keep everything kind of parallel with each other. It doesn't have to be too tight, because we're going to have a little room for the fourth wire. But even if you do it like this, you can squish that fourth wire in there. Now, right about here, I want to cut off a bead. That might even be too much, but guess what? It doesn't matter, because any imperfections are going to be, you can force down to the base, and you do want it to be tighter. But that's so close that I might almost opt to do two, but definitely wouldn't. And then I'm going to, once I kind of cut that bead off, I see that I'm right there on that one, having that pushed in here, and then I'm right below here. I don't want to be on top of it. I want to be right below it. And then I'm going to fold this under, kind of, see, I'm kind of pulling it too. Kind of pulling it at the same time, folding it under, put my thumbs together, and flip it over. We're going to do it a couple more times together, and then I'll not make you watch me do it. And then I pull this wire straight. Now, I am never consistent on which side I go down. It doesn't really, I don't think it matters. It certainly doesn't. I mean, like I said, I've made a cajillion of them, and I don't, you know. So, meaning like if I put my my new row of beads on this side or that side, it doesn't matter. Whichever side it seems to naturally fit on. And because I kind of bent it this way, I'm going to put on this side. So I'm going to pull some more beads up, and I'm going to push them right up to the top. Okay, here's how we get the flat thing though. And this is where some people that might not opt for flat. They kind of like to keep it like a plus sign, which I think looks cool too. But not what's happening here. If you want to use it here, go ahead. So what I do though with this is once I get here and I'm pushing it so it's right up at the top, and this time I squish it down. And sometimes my hands get tired of doing that. So I might get out my vinyl pliers here and actually kind of very gently, so I don't break any beads. I'm never squishing. I'm not squishing. I'm just holding and jiggling to get it flat again. And I might even do that after the fact. Like I said, I put a lot of attention to each one, because I want it to be just enough so that I can close it back up like that, right? So now here's the trick too. When you get down to the bottom here, now you want to go about two. Say you can see that this bead right here. Get a little pointer. This bead right here is pretty much right on the bottom. It's level with the other bottom ones. I want to kick 2 beads off then. At least 2 beads off. And then I push these down here. And now here's the other thing. This is where I overwrap. Now, so you can see right now that this one is about 2 beads up from there. Now, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to bring it around right at the bottom of that loop, bring it around tight. And then I normally put it in another hand. I normally do this kind of fast, so it's kind of weird to like try to do it slow motion, because I feel like I'm saying things that I might not actually do, because I just go, you know, I do my thing. So I turn it over, you know, or however your hands can hold it. But now I'm going to do, and I end up actually turning it away from me now. And I'm going to do maybe 2 or 3 good twists in here. I don't care if this thing gets clunky. I want it to be clunky because I want it to be, and now look what it looks like right now. I go, that looks weird, but we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it. So 2 or 3 good spins on there, and you're going to notice that there is that little clunky knot at the bottom. But who cares? You saw my mom's. They all have that. Did you care? Did you see it? Did you notice it? The answer is no, you did not. Every single one of these on here has that clunky bottom, and even on the bottom, you don't notice it. You don't notice it. It's not there because it's all up against the stem wire, and there's so much going on with this that you don't see that stuff. So, like I said, we're going to put all the... Now I had this tied off because I didn't want the beads to spill, but now it's just causing issues. Go away, knot. Okay. So, now it looks like this on the first... Now that's kind of a little bit cranky looking. Looks a little grumpy. And I could even do another one. It won't even matter. So here's what we do now. I grab them, squishy, do this little sideways wiggle. I'm going to push these, make sure they're all in there. I spend some time on each and every one of these. If I'm seeing a little gappage there, that's because I did, then I'm going to do this. I'm going to push this up and push it back in. Takes care of that. Gone. Gone. Use the wire. Bend it in there. Shape it. You know, get to know your wire and your beads. So then I look at this and I go, that's not very flat for what I'm going for. So, and my fingers get a little tired of squishing, so I lightly clamp down and kind of wiggle it around. And you'll feel that one. You can even like purposely kind of softly kind of go like this to get that one down in there. If you don't want to spin this, then don't. You know, it's your prerogative. But now, look at that. We got no gappage, nothing in between there. And this thing is good to go. It's going to stay solid. And you can also, I know, I'm telling you, I spend some time with these. That's why it's a challenge. Now I'm going to notice that this one, you know, I can even go, I'm going to push that up a little bit and get that all wired in there. You know, whatever you want to do. But again, if you do too much, then you let a little bit kind of, you know, fluff down here. If it's too little, then you actually pinch this one down. You have all your imperfections on the base and no one's ever going to see them because there's so much going on in that flower. But now we have a nice little, and I do that pre-bending thing again. But we have a nice flat petal that's 4 rows wide and it looks pretty much exactly like I would want it to. So let's do another one kind of quicker where I'm not talking about it for 10 minutes. Oh goodness gracious. There's so much to this. I did something I never do when I'm actually just making them, which is to actually do all my bead on wire stuff, my spinning for all the sections beforehand. So now there's just so much bead wire going on around me. Anyhow, it's making it get a little tingly. So let's do another one kind of quickly. So I'm not like, you know, dissecting every 5 seconds and you think it's like that much of a trauma. I'll show you that your hands will start to fix things automatically, for lack of a better way to put it. Like I'll start to tend to things. So again, 4 1/4. Take my 4 1/4 off here. Okay, let's do a little more smoothly this time. And it's also not my first one. Pushing it out. With these, because you're doing a double twist, you're twisting the outer one and then twisting the inner one. You want to give it a little more space. Maybe even like a full 1/2 inch. You know, and if you find that that's too much, depending on how tight your twists are, then you change it. It doesn't matter if there's more gap. So, again, I do the one under just like a regular continuous loop. I'm going to do it. I want to make sure it ropes. You know, that means like the two things are twisting together, not one twisting around the other of the wires, because then it doesn't have slippage. Okay, good. Because that's kind of a pain when you're trying to pull things up into it to have it slip. So now I'm going to look, and I'm going to look at this and go, uh-oh, there's a bead right in the middle, which would be great if this was a continuous loop, but it's not. So I don't want that. So I'm going to push one over. So now push one down, and yeah, you guessed it, I bit it. So now we have that, because I want that little, because this is where the wire is going to go. So I actually want a space right on top now. Okay, so just make a kind of decent, now again, here we're going to bring this around, and I just do a double twist on the bottom, unless I mess up, and then I do a triple twist. And I bring the other one up, use my fingernail or something just to push it down, right? So this right, I'm just pushing it down so it's right on top there. Pushing it down, straightening out my wire, bringing in my beads, putting them into the middle. pushing this down into the middle, pushing it down like that. I'm pushing it into the middle, and then even bringing these up, pinching these up, these edges up around the side. It's just a little way that I make sure the rows get kind of flush with each other, so it's flat. You might have your own ways that your hands work, and you can even fix some of that stuff to the end, at the end of doing it. So again, I'm pushing it down so it gets all the way in there. Don't worry, you don't have to worry about too much if it's too much or too little. You don't want it to be too little because then you'll have empty wire, which again, not the end of the world, but better to err on the other side here because you can push the extra beads down the bottom and no one will ever see them. So I'm going up to this top again. So I'm going to cut down. Now this one's kind of tricky because do I want to do one bead? Experiment. It depends on the way you wrap them. So I'm going to go right below that. There you go. I'm going to kind of really make sure I'm getting a tight fold on that. Flipping it over. Coming back on the other side. And yeah, I got that going on. Okay. So what? And again, I'm pinching this down. And I guess I almost always put it closer to me, the new row. But, you know, there it is. And I'm doing, before I go any further, I'm doing a little wiggle and jiggle. I might flatten it again later, but with my fingers. Just to get that initial push down. So I'm like really trying to flatten this down right here. So I'm going to do a little push down on that. Okay, then I get my beads. And again, I'm kind of squishing them into the middle here. As I go, I'm shaping and squishing it into the middle. And then I could cut up right about there. And to be honest, it would be okay. You could probably even take out an extra bead, especially since we're bending up here. So, you know, which means that we got a little room. So it would be up to you. I'm going to show you it doesn't matter, really. Here, I'll just choose the one I have. So I'm going to pinch again, take this wire, and I'm going to bring it right around, make sure it goes around the base of the other bead and comes up under the base of this one. That's my first twist. And then I like to switch hands because I want to twist this way. And now I'm going to twist away from me because of the way I did that. So I'm going to try to rope this twist too and keep it tight. So I'm pinching it. I'm pinching it right there. I guess you could do the V thing too, sticking your thumb up into the V of it, whichever way your hands hold it. But you want to keep them tight. And so that they end up being about, you know, 1/8 of an inch apart. Now, look how mangly that one looks. We're going to fix it, right? So we're going to do the thing. First thing we want to do, give it that little wiggle jiggle to get the lines parallel to each other. And then push this one up and in. Make sure we're there. Check the top. And then what I'm going to do at the top, because my hands are definitely getting tired, is to take my vinyl, and you can do this with just your fingers. If you do use the vinyl tip pliers, again, please do not do this. Just holding it, just hold it exactly where you're just using it to hold. You're not using it to press, because you're going to hold it and kind of gently just wiggle it a bit so that this one now gets flush with it. And we push this back up. We're going to check the other side just to see how things look. Make sure, okay, that looks good. Squish them back together if it gets apart. And there we go. We're going to push this back in. And then we see I have a little bit of bare wire up there. So we're going to push this one up and this one in. Use the beads we have. And if you get a little bit of bare wire of these, it's not the end of the world. You can squish it around. Sometimes it's just because it's on the top. And notice this one too, because of the way I chose it, this one actually is going a little bit to the side right here, right? This one's to the side. It looks like it would have fit better if I did it to this one, but who cares? We're going more for the shape than where that ends up. And as long as the shape is still this sort of shape, then we're good to go. So there we go. We got another one. And we're going to smush that over. Let's do one more this way. So I'm going to do 16 of these. And this one, like I said, the reason it's a challenge is because it's a challenge. But you get what you work for, and I think they're quite lovely when they're done. And they're definitely worth the effort for sure. Now, 4 1/4, 4 1/4, 4 1/4, 4 1/4. As I'm saying that, I'm like, okay, where's 4 1/4? Right about there. Looks good. You know, close enough. Again, we're making it straight, so we're going to pull this up, just like we do with continuous loops. We want to keep this thing flat. We want to keep this wire that it's on mounted on flat. And we're going to go again about 1/2 inch. It's getting stuck in my brace. About 1/2 inch. And then we're doing this one behind, or however you want to do your first loop. And again, we're making sure that it ropes, not just twists one around the other. And you can do it. I might have just done 3, but doesn't matter. Because again, these are going to be underneath. So even though those, I honestly don't know what a double crossover looks like from anyone else, because even from the diagram, I didn't really look at the bottom. But it might get a little clunky here, but it stays. So I'm okay with what, and you don't see it. You don't see it in those flowers, right? Nobody was like, oh, look at her clunky bottoms of her leaves, because you didn't see it. So, okay, again, I'm going to pull up until we get, now this one again, I'm noticing that I have one right in the center, and it looks like it's slightly longer on this side. So I'm going to actually pull from this side over and force it over that way. So now I have one right in the middle. Now, if you notice already that this is kind of loose here, add another twist on the bottom. But, twist it up, grab the top part and really get that twist on there. Oh, now it's tight. See, nothing's moving now. So you can check your outer loop to make sure there's not going to be any, bare wire. I know, it's not the end of the world. I make it sound like it's the end of the world. So I'm going to choose one to be the top. And again, you can use something to help you make that, because we're looking now for the very top to be between 2 beads, not 1 bead. So I'm going to tighten that down. It's between 2 beads. Doing our same thing. I'm going to pull this over so it's like, right flush here. And then I'm going to bend it up. I'm going to crease it up with my thumbnail. Let's get these out of the way. Crease it up with my thumbnail. Straighten this out. Bring in some beads. Push them into the middle. Push them into the middle. Even down at this bottom one. And I'm bending it in there. I know these are out of the way. Get this out of the way. And then I'm even kind of pulling these other 2 rows in front of it so that when I do flatten it again, it'll be really... Now, you don't have to do all that. That's just the way I get these to be really... Now when I look down on it, see, it looks like they're even. And that's just going right in there. And this is just one flat surface. That's the goal. That's my goal with this. Okay. So then I'm going to do a little wiggle jiggle. Keep it kind of nice and even. And cutting off right a bead below. Now this one, it's going to be tight. Because the thing is, once I do it, I spread it out a little bit. So I'm going to end up probably with a little extra bead on the bottom. That's okay. I'd rather it be over than under on this one. So I'm going to bend it down, fold it over, bring these in. Now this time it just seemed to naturally go on the outer side. That's okay. So, and I'm going to pinch and wiggle, pinch and wiggle, pinch and wiggle. So when I do that, I see that I can definitely push more beads up into there. Pinch and wiggle. Now, I'm going to come down to the bottom, keeping this up as possible right now. That side's up. And I'm going to cut off about 2 beads from the base. So like this one's right at the base, and then so maybe 2 up. I want to have some room. You could even do a little bit. With this one, you might even want to take 1 more out. Live and learn, because you got a lot of beads up here. And you're going to have to wrap. So you want this one, the very last row, the fold over row to be about a bead up from the bottom. Now, I'm going to do that thing where I bring the wire under, while I'm pinching to keep it tight, under both of the 2 other beads, turn it around so I can hold it in my other hands. And now it looks really clunky, and that's okay. And then I'm going to hold it tight, and I'm going to twist. And it's going to be ugly twist. This one's really ugly. And I'm noticing I'm really far away, so I can force the wire to twist on itself and not make it any longer and still get about 1/8 of an inch apart. So I did kind of like a twist on top of a twist to get it closer, but not make it any longer. Now, that means I'm stuck with that thing. Okay, let's fix it. So wiggle, jiggle. Remember, these all looked as bad. This one I did an extra twist, so I'm going to have to flatten it even more. So I'm going to push those bottom beads back into the center. Go back up to the top. Now, you can do this with your hands. I can't anymore, especially now with my right hand. I'm going to use this, just holding and kind of wiggling it in so that I'm getting these rows put into the middle. And then once I get that done, I want to do one last kind of push-up to make sure that the beads are all the way going up to the top. And do one last little push-up. Push it in. And again, just keep kind of shaping them to keep it flat. Check the backside. Make sure it looks good, going pretty much up there, looking good. This thing's scraping on the folder. Okay, so, and then you can shape them, and you can see now that that one looked pretty rough, but now doesn't really matter. We're still back to this same little, you can see these. Let me flatten them, actually. I just can't seem to stop from automatically curving them. So you can see that you got, you know, they look pretty. I think they look pretty. And they're pretty shaped too. We'll do one more of this. I didn't know if I said the last one was one more. This one I'm going to do actual speed. Of course, whenever I say that, I kind of forget what actual speed is. So, you know, I get all nervous that I'm doing it actual speed now. 4 1/4, chop it off, put that away. Okay, pinch the two ends, push this one about 1/2 inch down. Bring that one behind. Do 2 quick rope twists as tight as you can so there's no slippage and there's no gap in your wire. And if there is, you just do another twist. 1, 2, it does rope, test, looking good. No testing to see if I need to do another loop. Okay, putting them down flat with each other, finding the top with just one. This one I didn't have to move so that there's one bead there. You can even move it over then so it's in the center. Okay, now folding up, bringing this over, pushing it with my thumbnail so it's right in the middle. Keeping these kind of straight, bringing this in, pushing this right in the middle, pushing it down into the middle, pushing this further down now with my thumbnail, pushing it down, bring up the two sides, just kind of pinching them like that, pinching them up onto each other. And that just gives you like a crease that then you can now flatten it. You see the flat? Okay, keeping it as far down in there as you can. These beads as far down in there as you can, just touching the bottom. Don't push them over the bottom. Have them just touching the bottom. Okay, then when we get to the top, we're going to cut off so it just fits right in there perfectly. Inside, not on top again. Folding, flipping. Okay, pinching to keep it in order. Pinching again, using my fingernail to even crease it down in there. Get that crease, but now I've got too much exposed. Pushing it up, keeping it so that it stays right up on the bottom there. Coming down to the bottom here, pushing these down, getting in there, and then cutting off about a bead above the bottom. You could even go 1 bead ahead in this. But again, always overestimate because you can always just make it clunkier at the bottom, so it's okay. So here, wrapping under both beads, bringing it around, flipping it over, and then pinching the bottom while I twist and try to make sure I'm rope twisting it, not one twisting around the other. And I don't really even count the twist in the bottom. I just want it to be about 1/8 inch, about that long. So sometimes that's more than others. So that looks good. And again, it looks kind of mangled. I'm going to fix it now. First thing, flatten. And you start to do this kind of fast, right? Flatten. Push this one up. Fill it in. Get it into that thing. Get over here. Get my little pliers or do it with your fingers. For some reason, it's easier for me to do it the other way in the beginning, and at the end it's harder. Maybe because it's tighter. So again, just twisting it slightly to get this one pushed in and this other one pulled out so that they're flush together. And then pushing, 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 straightening, checking back, looking good. Off we go. Done. So there's another one. So I'm going to do 16 of these, not on camera, because that would be, again, mean. Definitely fall under the mean category, but I will show you that, you know, we're going to do different sizes. So I'll finish all of this particular unit off and probably do the half of the next unit so that I can then finish it up with you. Because basically we're going to do 2 units of double crossover loops, and then we actually go back to continuous loops. Oh, because I was talking, I just twisted it 3 times, but now I got to keep it because it wouldn't have been tight otherwise. Not the end of the world. So I twisted the bottom. You can just twist the bottom 2 or 3 times. I'm looking at the top, already looks like it is set up to have 2 beads, one here and one there, so it's perfect. For what I need, I'm gonna pull it slightly apart, push this over. That's what I'm doing when I do this. I'm pulling this over, so when I fold it up, it's right in the middle, pushing it, creasing that, just really, really kinking that, like creasing that fold up. Okay, bringing this one in, straightening my wire because it got messed up, making sure it's right in the bottom there, pushing it, squishing it, pushing it, get those other ones out of the way so you can see, doing a little wiggle jiggle to make sure it's in there, and then cutting this on right off underneath, fold over, fold and flip over. And then this one seemed to have wanted to go closer to me again. Most of them do. And then I'm pinching it. I think it is a little easier here because it's not as tight, because the beads are still loose enough that I can actually push them down. So then I want to push my beads back up after I do my initial flattening. All right, my initial flattening here, I'm going to push them back up so they meet the top. Bring this around, cut it off about 1 or 2 beads, 1.5 beads from underneath. Wrap under, switch over, and now I'm going to turn, and this time I'm twisting away from me, and I might twist a few times until it gets about 1/8 of an inch from the other place. I can always bring it back over if it's the other direction. Okay, pushing that one in, doing my straightening out, pushing it in, doing more straightening, until it's where I want it to be. Kind of flatten this a little bit, which you may or may not care about doing, especially if you did it the first time after the fold over. Okay, so there we go. So now we have 5 done, and I think you get the gist. I'm going to finish this one out, and I'm going to do the next unit also on a separate piece of wire, which I have always done them all continuously, but it's a lot of bead stringing on one wire, and it does make it a little harder to get it tight when you wrap around, because you've got so much in the beginning that you're wrapping. It's hard to get a good grip on it. So we're going to stop it for now, and this is such a cool color. It's totally like barely even pink. I think I'm kind of in love with this color. I think I might have to go back in and, instead of ordering like a box of 6 tubes, which I do on colors I don't use as much, I think I'm going to have to just bust out a ½ kilo on this. That's cool. Anyhow, so I will have that one finished out, and I think you get the challenge part. But again, after we do our first 2 colors, we get to go back to our old friends, the continuous loops, and finish it out with those. So we're just adding this new technique. It does take a little bit of time to get used to the flattening. The degree of which you want to flatten is up to you. But like I said, I really try to get them super flat. Like if you look at it from the side, you can't even tell that this one had to like come over top and be flattened into it. And that this is because we're forcing that wire down in between and like squishing it so much that it just is flat with this. Hope I'm holding it at the right angle so that you can see that. But just flat. And that's what I want for these particular ones. I don't want the 3D effect. If you want that, that's cool. But that's not what I'm going for with mine. But I love that effect in other places, for sure. So, there you go. Okay, so I looked back at that first part of the video, and I realized that it might be kind of far away to see what I'm doing with the crossover loop. Kind of realized that too late, though. So I'm going to do one last one on this one and see if I can tack this onto the segment. So what do we want this one to be? I did this yesterday. So 3 inches. So I want this to be a 3-inch one. So I'm going to try to make it a little bit more visible. So I blew up zoomed in. That's what I'm looking for. In the old days, you'd say, blew up a picture. Well, I didn't do that. I just zoomed in. Okay, so I'm going to get 3 inches. So I'm just going to do this very last crossover loop and see if maybe a little bit closer up is better. Now, you can go out probably about 3/8 of an inch, not quite ½ an inch. I said before, it's up to you. For me, I made these almost too long, but that's okay because they're going to be underneath anyway, so it's okay. Meaning like this little segment here was actually a little longer than I wanted, but I wanted these to be close, so it's like a balance. So I would probably go closer to about 3/8 of an inch out a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch, which is what I would do if I was not doing a double crossover, if I was just doing a continuous loop. So about 3/8 of an inch, right about there. Do my back things. We're gonna do this kind of fast because I want to see the flow of it, right? So then I'm gonna do tight. Now you can do either 2. So these are also things I thought of when I was making, which I'll show you in a second, all of those other double crossover loops. So you can either do 2 really tight ones or 3. It does not matter. If 2 doesn't make it tight enough and you can still get some wiggle in here, then just do a 3rd one. And I make them really shallow, meaning that like if you can see here, like they're not like pulled down like these. I want them to be right, on each other. But I also don't want it to slip when I'm doing there. So I do want it to rope apart. Now, if you are getting slippage, you can also, if you're not like roping it, meaning like you're twisting it like that, you can, if you stretch it out like this, it's also going to stop it from slipping, right? So now again, the other thing I wanted to point out is if you don't get like a perfect, like not perfect, but if you don't get like the little like gap that you want to put the new wire, the other wire through right on the top and it's a little bit to the side, that's fine. Just work with it. Because the thing with these is that we don't actually care about the, like where, if it goes to the middle, we're looking for that shape. So you can even see some of these, like this one has it off to the side a bit. That's okay. That's okay. The shape still looks good. So it's easier if it goes to the top like this. Sorry, I still have glue all over me. I was putting together this huge mega arrangement just a little bit ago, and it's turning into a bit of a mess. Anyhow, okay, so I'm gonna pull this up. Now again, I'm kind of making sure it's straight, and then pulling it over, kind of yanking it over to keep it straight, and then pushing it up with my fingernail up into that middle bit right there, and then getting my beads in here, putting them in here. And now this is what I realized might not be that easy to see. I'm pushing the very bottom of the middle row now, bead into that, like into the space in between them. So it's actually like curving it down like that, because I'm trying to like crease the wire, basically. I'm not going to leave it like that, right? So I'm going to bring it back up. And sometimes I even will pinch, almost all the time, I'll pinch the other 2 up so it's even like more around it, because I'm creasing it. I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be flat. But once I got that crease in there, then it's easier to make it flat. See? Now, flat. I'm holding it at the right angle. So, and then we get a little bit straight. That wiggle thing always gets that straight. And then we're cutting it off so that it's right about there on it. So it looks like it tucks right in there. So that top bead tucks right in there. If anything though, if it comes in between, you want to it's okay to have some gappage here. It's okay to have a little bit of space on this center wire before it touches the top wire, because you can squish some beads up from the bottom, or you can get right tight in there. Either way, what I meant about being able to push all the inconsistencies down to the bottom is if something's too, if there's too many beads, that's okay. You can pull them out in the bottom. I'll show you. So bending this over, putting this around. I'll show you after I have all these, because I'm not sure I'm going to use this segment. So I want to make sure. I'm just going to do this one little bit. So then I'm turning it over. Sorry, and I'm pinching it. Remember, I'm pinching it to really keep it flat. But I'm not doing my final flattening. I'm just pinching it to kind of get the wires prepped for it and to get that shape ready. So then I'm pushing my beads up here. And I want to cut off so that there's about... So if it were like this, where it's right even, where the bottom bead of the row I'm working with, this row right here, if that bottom bead just touches the bottom of the outer loop, I kick 2 off of there. I take 2 off of that. Okay, 2. Right? I'm saying 1 up from the bottom, and that's kind of what I meant, but I was talking about from being inside it. So that's another way to think about it. If your beads, you get your beads right to the bottom of the outer loop, and then you kick 2 complete beads off of it. Now, after I got that done, I'm keeping everything pinched and together, and I already see I have some gap on here. Interesting. Trying to explain at the same time, which I can fix. Well, I'm just going to go with it this time. Okay, so I'm going to bring this now, this wire here that I'm having, and I'm putting it at the bottom of the outer row that's furthest away from me, and I'm bringing it around tight up underneath the other outer row. And then I switch hands, which again, you choose your thing. It's kind of hard to hold it. You kind of have to slip your hands in the middle here now. And it's going to look messy. And then I'm going to twist. And I don't really worry about how many twists on this. I just want it to get about, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch from, for whatever reason, that's what I've decided, about 1/8 of an inch from the last one, right? So I'll do one more, right? And so it looks like that. So right now, and I'm going to shape this up. So right now, this is all kind of messy looking, right? You can see the difference there. They all look like that. They all look like that in the beginning. Now it's about the shaping of the wire. So I'm going to, first thing I always do is I take my thumbnail and I push down on the middle rows and I get everything kind of to push everything up there, and then I'm seeing it's actually going too far up. So like I said, spend a little bit of time shaping these guys. Where is my masher? There it is. That's what I call it, the masher. I call this my masher. And then I flip it over, just kind of pushing up beads in here. And then right now you can see that this is still kind of not quite flat, and that's okay. I'm going to gently, again, not tamp, I'm going to kind of push the one that's outer back and the one that's inner, you know, kind of the opposite of where they're going. Now we've got a flat petal. And if you do have a little slip here on that, on the bottom, that's okay. This one has more, that's interesting, but that's okay. So what? I got an extra one here. I'm going to push this up though and see if I can trick the beads into staying up at top. Now, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And in fact, if you wanted to, you could even try one more twist to see if that takes a little bit of the, up to you, or you leave well enough alone, which is probably what I should have done, because now I'm gonna have to double check again to make sure. Now, the good news is it took a lot of that extra, see, that's what I'm saying, you can always do that extra twist, and that twist is hidden underneath the rest of the petals, so who cares? So now it's a little longer than I wanted, but it's okay. It's gonna look fine. For this kind of flower, it doesn't actually matter. So I'm gonna straighten it out again, and there we go, we're back again. Now, if you have some bare wire that shows up on the top, then that's not a big deal. But we're trying to, you know, keep the outer loop as tight as possible so that you can keep it as kind of smooth as possible, I guess. So I just wanted to show that last one a little closer up. And so this is our last segment. I'm going to turn this off and go back to the other one because I don't know if I like this segment. And we're going to go and I'll add it if it works.